here. So let's see from M. Allen. He says Trevor Bauer made the MPB All-Star team today.
Trevor Bauer, the ex-Dodger, has settled down. At one point he'd been sent to the minor leagues 2 different times, now has come back. I think the last I checked, I think his record was 7-2. Has kind of become dominant, striking out a lot of batters, still giving up a chunk of home runs along the way, but he's pitching every 5th or every 6th day, and he's there. And, you have to go search his numbers to try to find him. It'll be interesting to see if he has a 15-win season. If Trevor Bauer goes 15-4, does anybody in baseball give him an opportunity to come back?
Maybe. I mean, look at this other comment here from Brett Shepard. He says Trevor Bauer was framed. There's a lot of people that think that he was treated unjustly and that he deserves an opportunity to come back to America.
Well, you got 30 teams in Major League Baseball that don't subscribe to you, Brett, at this point in time, but things change when you need pitching. We'll see where the lawsuit goes. That lawsuit is still out there. Whether or not that lawsuit ever gets to court, only time will tell there.
Oh, only time will tell. Here's a comment from Force Ghost Fabio. He says, "Oh my God, stop with the politics."
I'm just putting topics on the table.
You kind of slip a little Trump something in there.
I didn't make this stuff up. It's right there. You can dive back onto the internet when we're done with the live stream and go get the story of the former president taking Saudi money again. Maybe it doesn't offend you. That's okay. Offends me, offends him, but doesn't offend you. That's okay.
Let's go to social media here. And this is a comment from Anaheim Rob talking about the Ducks. He says, "I'm not sure if the Ducks would have taken Carlson regardless, but Fantilli was definitely sending out vibes that he wanted to go to Columbus."
Well, I don't know that Fantilli talked his way out of being the second pick in the draft. For the sports fans that don't know, Anaheim Ducks have had a really good offseason. They had the second pick in the draft, and they had Adam Fantilli, the great freshman center iceman, University of Michigan. They got a big center left winger, Leo Carlson, from Sweden. And a bit of a surprise, they passed on Fantilli, who's I think going to be a good pro, to take Carlson. I think it's because Carlson's a 2-position player, and Carlson was just a really good player in a league of men. The Swedish Elite League is a very, very good league. Fantilli, of course, did magical things. A couple weeks ago, when we did our post-draft wrap-up, I thought that Fantilli should have been the Ducks' choice because I think he's more ready to play as a goal scorer. But they scouted 6 different times. They went to Europe to watch Carlson play, and they think maybe there's much more upside from Carlson. He's bigger than Fantilli, so I think it would have been win-win regardless of who the Ducks took or who Columbus took. I think they got themselves good players.
Has there ever been a situation in NHL kind of like with John Elway or Eli Manning in the NFL where they said, "I will not play for that team if I get drafted by them"?
Oh, there was. And yet, boy, you'd have to ask me that right now. I'm trying to remember. There was somebody who got drafted. Oh, it was Eric Lindros, legendary Philadelphia Flyer, high draft pick. He got drafted by somebody else and refused to put the jersey on the podium. It was almost like Eli Manning. Mm-hmm. When Manning got drafted by the Chargers, he went up to the podium and they gave him the jersey and the hat, and he looked like he ate a bad tuna fish sandwich because the family had told the Chargers, "We're not coming to play in San Diego. You trade his rights." And of course, they did. They flipped him for Phillip Rivers, and it turned out to be win-win for everybody. But Eric Lindros, I think, was probably the biggest marquee guy because he was top of the draft board, and he wanted to dictate where he was going to go play. And he had a great career till concussions kind of knocked him out of the National Hockey League. But that's just off the top of my head. That's the biggest one that comes to mind in modern day hockey.
Yeah, I'm surprised this kind of thing doesn't happen more often. They got some more comments here on social media. And this is a good one here. This is from Reno San 87. Talking about the Padres. Are they going to cool off or are they going to stay hot? He says, let me break it down. Let me break down some reality for delusional fans, LOL. The Padres are playing .466 baseball right now. To get to 89 wins, they have to play .648 the rest of the season, starting right now. How many teams playing .600 in all of baseball? Because I'll tell you, only 2. The Rays at .626 and the Braves at .678. The Padres need to instantly be the second best team in baseball overnight and go 48-26, the final 74, just to secure the 3rd wild card spot. Not happening.
probably correct, but injuries can change the makeup of a team. I don't think anybody's chasing down Atlanta, but things change. All of a sudden, Arizona or Cincinnati wake up in the middle of the pennant race in early August and start to fall apart because the heat is unbearable. I'm not talking about the heat in the Queen City or what's going on in the Valley of the Sun weather-wise. So things can change. But you're correct. The Padres have not shown any of this to us. And we thought the Fab Four would be dominant. And the rest of the batting order is really substandard. And they've been living off quality starts, but there's a fatigue factor for all those veteran pitchers. And their bullpen has really run out of gas just because they've been overused so much. I think that it's going to be a run uphill for the Padres to be a wild card team. That being said, if Machado and the Fab Four can all hit 270 with home runs and they do play good defense, maybe there's a chance they can chase some of these guys down. But as we start the second half of the thing, there's 6 out of the last wild card spot. I think the last I checked, there are 9 out of the first wild card spot. So that's a big hill to run up.
Yeah, we're optimistic as fans, but like you said, we look at the team on paper and they're better than every one of those teams above them, at least in the wild card hunt. So they have the ability to, what did he say? To go
48 and 29,
whatever it is. They have the ability to do that if the guys just play the way they're supposed to play. So that's what's just so frustrating as a fan. And boy, they get started tonight in Philadelphia.
All right, next one.
Let's go here. Talk about San Diego State and if they're going to get kicked out of the Mountain West. It's kind of a long response from that college football guy. He says, unfortunately, the Mountain West will be losing about, $10 million in revenue over the next 5 years due to losing San Diego TV market. The revenue is held back to offset a lost TV revenue once a member departs a conference. It has been this way for every conference forever. Whoever drafted this letter from San Diego State administration needs to be reprimanded or possibly fired. A more carefully crafted letter citing only clarification about penalties in the possible extension would have been much better idea. The Mountain West is acting tough because they have to negotiate a new TV deal and their largest TV market is trying to get out the door.
College football guy, I'll sign your memo. I surely won't sign the letter that President De La Torre sent. I just think this thing is mishandled terribly. And now the information that she went to a president's meeting in Hawaii and actually stood up and said, we're probably leaving. I thank you for the relationships we've had. And that then followed by the letter that, this serves as a possible resignation letter. And then her proposal that we'd like to try to do a different structure on the exit fees. And the Mountain West just absolutely said, no. The rules are the rules, and we're not changing it. And you do raise an interesting point about whatever the TV contract is that gives each of the Mountain West teams $3 a year. It's a bad TV deal, but look where the conference is. That's going to have to be restructured down because I don't think there's anything the Mountain West can do in terms of stealing somebody else. If BYU were still out there, and I thought they should have brought Brigham Young back in a couple of years ago, if the Cougars were still out there and there were a few other marquee group of 5 teams out there, maybe you could lure them back in and the bleeding wouldn't be as bad. But where are you going to go? You go get Hawaii full time? You're not going to get Texas, El Paso and be a difference maker. Now they're just really in a tough place as it relates to the group of 5 status. But we'll see what happens with San Diego State, how quickly this is all going to evolve. Pac-12 media days are on the 21st. We're led to believe, or at least it's been intimated to me by people that kind of cover this on a regular basis, that they're going to announce, the Pac-12 is going to announce this new deal maybe before the media days. And I think this deal is directly tied to Disney, whether that's ABC, ESPN, or streaming. Mm-hmm. I think there's a chunk of money coming. I was told that when they get the new TV deal done, each school in the Pac-10 or Pac-12, if they expand, is going to get $37 million. That's annual. And that pushes them right back up close to the Big 12, maybe not what the Big 10 gets, and obviously not the $51 million that the SEC schools get. But the Atlantic Coast Conference is be in that same category. So The Pac-12 deal is going to be good, and even though it's been delayed and there's been all types of complications, I gotta believe that they're going to announce something that's going to have some pizzazz to it, and maybe there's rumbling about Disney and streaming has got real legs to it and a big dollar value attached to it.
That's an interesting angle because we've been talking so much about how Disney is bleeding money, how they're firing all these guys at ESPN and sportscasters and men and women. How are they going to come up with $37 million a year for 10 teams?
Well, when you got the potential of all the major markets, and to me, despite what Southern Cal and UCLA did to the conference, I still think there's great history and heritage and appreciation and respect for those schools that stay behind. But you know what Disney's doing, because Disney's cutting everywhere. What I think they're doing is they're taking all that money from talent and what they're doing with the theme parks and other business properties they own. They're taking that money and they're putting it over here, and they're going to go get a product that they can then resell and generate big revenue. And that product is Pac-12 football or Pac-12 basketball.
Interesting.
And subscriptions and streaming.
Yeah. Oh, the whole world is shifting,
Oh, yeah.
And then especially with what's going on with, Hollywood and the actors and the writers' strike. I mean, they're talking about how they're going to have a lot more sports on television, because they don't have to produce it the way they have to with all these other television shows.
But they have to pay for it, and that's where the money's coming from. They're taking Susie Colbert's salary and everybody else's, and they're putting it over here, and that's going to be the offer, I think, to the Pac-12. Okay, let's do one or two more.
Okay, let's go here. And this is a good one about Bob Baffert. And from this vertical we posted, and this is from, what's his name? Mighty Tech. And he says, he sat in front of me at the 1998 World Series Game 4 in San Diego. He had already won at least one Kentucky Derby at that point and was wearing a KD Letterman-style jacket with big Kentucky Derby champion embroidered on the back. He kept standing up between innings, extending his arms out to make sure we could all read his jacket. He really wanted to be noticed. Around the fourth inning or so, Baffert postured too long, and that jacket and white hair of his blocked some from seeing the first pitch of the inning. One of the fans yelled, "Yeah, nice jacket. We get it, Whitey. Now would you sit down so we can watch the game?" And he sat down.
Baffert's got personality. Baffert's got ego. I like dealing with him, but obviously there's a big history here of wrongdoing in horse racing. I am stunned that Churchill Downs has penalized him a second time, because that, to me, that's kind of double jeopardy. I don't know how any of that holds up in court, but he's really fought them tooth and nail legally about everything that's gone on as relates to testing, their perception of what happened in testing, his explanation of why some horses tested positive, tainted hay, or an ointment that we didn't know about, or trainers, etc. So it's too bad, because the guy is such a leader in the industry. I think he's kind of rallied and saved horse racing. Horse racing's in huge trouble. When you see all the great stables in Kentucky that have gone down, and then you add into it the catastrophic injury situation, it's a very complex puzzle to move pieces around to figure out how in the world you're going to make this work.
Well, what makes Bob Baffert so great? I mean, hopefully it's not because his horses are on the juice. He must have a training regimen, or he may be able to recognize talent. I mean, what is it about him that makes him so good?
I just think track record, and when he approaches a horse owner in England or France or Saudi Arabia, where horse racing is a huge sport, and he presents his credentials and his training methodology, that's why they deliver that horse racing talent to his stables. And you add in all the Kentucky Derbies and all the Triple Crown winners, and then the stud fees when horses go into retirement. I mean, the man's credentials are just amazing. I wouldn't say impeccable, because obviously there's a lot of tainted stuff right now, but that's how the business of horse racing with an elite trainer works.
Interesting. Yeah, but we can always spot him at the races. He's always got the shades on, looking for the camera. So yeah, pretty crazy guy, even back in the World Series in 1998.
Most interesting guy. Hey, listen, we hope you've enjoyed our Friday live stream